We come now to the final lecture in this section, and actually the final lecture which deals with the band descriptor requirements, the band descriptor criteria, before we close up with a conclusion section in the section after this one. And in this final lecture, we're going to be talking about common grammatical errors which candidates tend to make when writing their Task 1 letters. So let's get started and have a look at why this is important. Why does accuracy matter in the first place? Well, if we return for the last time to the band descriptors, don't worry, we won't be looking at them again after this. When we look at grammatical range and accuracy, this is what we see. This is what separates the bands. Band 6 makes some errors in grammar and punctuation, but these rarely reduce communication. Band 7 produces frequent error-free sentences. And Band 8, the majority of sentences are error-free. So as you can see, accuracy matters because it can be the difference between particular band scores. Greater accuracy, a higher band score. Now bear in mind, I haven't put this up here, but Band 5, you can imagine if Band 6 says these errors rarely reduce communication, if the reader is confused by some of your grammatical errors, then you are at risk of even dropping to a 5. Even if it just happens once or twice, there is a risk of you really losing a lot of marks here. So it's very important that you aim for accuracy. So that's why it's important for you to identify what your particular grammatical weaknesses are. Now we're looking at just 3 particular common grammar errors today, but if yours are different and you know that, then please do focus on these individually as well. You really need to put the effort in, put the time in to sorting these issues out so that you are less likely to make these mistakes on exam day. Let's get started by looking at the first common grammar error, which is article usage. The, a, an, and the zero article as well. Now have a look at this sentence here. An otherwise perfect sentence, no matter how complex, can be compromised by article error. Now, it's a perfect example. This is not error-free, almost error-free, but not error-free for the reason that it's missing an indefinite article, an. And this is a very, very common type of error that appears in essays and in letters. These units of language are tiny, and yes, because they are so small, and for some people, for some languages, they aren't necessary, they can be very annoying, they're frustrating, but they must not be neglected nevertheless. If you know that you struggle with article usage, potentially because your language doesn't use articles, dedicate time to improving this aspect of your grammar. There is no magic fix. It really is a case of practice, 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 and don't put it off. Start today. So many high-level students with beautiful grammar around lots of other grammatical constructions, lovely wide-ranging vocabulary. Many of these students have failed to achieve error-free sentences, and thus they fail to achieve a Band 7 or above because of their article errors. So let's think about an exercise here where I'm going to put a number of sentences on the screen. These are all typical Task 1 letter sentences, and each of them contains at least 2 article errors. A couple of them may contain more article errors. So what I want you to do is to pause the video here and see if you can work out where the article errors are. When you've done that, you can press play to continue. Okay, so let's have a look. Now, if you couldn't find all of them, or you're not sure if you could find all of them, I'm going to point out where the errors are without changing them yet. So if some of these have appeared and you didn't find these on the first go round, have a look at them again and see if you can work out what the problem is. And when you're ready, again, press play. Okay, let's see the problems here. Okay, so let's go through these one by one. So I am writing to thank you for the, not an, so the opportunity to work, a specific opportunity to work that the other person already knows about. So we use the definite article to work as an intern for your company. So we use the indefinite article there, one intern of many. I gained valuable experience. No article here because the way the word experience is being used, it is being used in the uncountable context. So valuable experience and learnt many new skills. I would be delighted if you could arrange a visit to our home in the United Arab Emirates this summer. That latter error is very common actually. People forget to add the definite article before United States, United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates. Make sure you use the definite article before those countries. The bag in question, not a bag in question. We always use the definite article the when using this in question structure. The sentence in question, the word in question, the matter in question, the table in question, whatever it is. Basically all that means is the thing that both parties know is being spoken of. In this case, a bag. We've already written them about this bag, and so we are referring to it here. The bag in question was a blue faux leather backpack bearing the Adidas logo on its left and right sides and a silver zip across the front. The indefinite article being used here as we're introducing this zip for the first time, and it's a singular. Okay, I can't say the move has been easy. Now we have the definite article here because both parties, the sender of the letter and the recipient of the letter, know about this move. And the word move is being used as a noun here to mean moving house, the moving of a house. We just use it in a very colloquial way here, again informal language because it's an informal letter, the move. So I can't say the move has been easy. We had a few issues with the removal guys. Now notice we need to add an article here because a few means some, whereas few means not many. Okay, few without the article has a more negative connotation. Think about compare the two sentences. I have a few friends and I have few friends. The first one, it's okay, we have a few friends. The second one, we're kind of lonely, we have few friends. Very, very common error, and it does impact communication, the message that you're sending. So that's a really important one. We had a few issues with the removal guys. The little one got about a flu, and only in the past few days have we been able to properly finish furnishing the place. Again, we're using that definite article here. We use this in this kind of construction, the past few days, the last few years, the previous few weeks, etc. Notice also the little one. The little one means the child that we have, the baby, basically. Okay, hopefully all of those are clear. If you have any questions about those, as always, please ask them with the Q&A function. Let's move on and think about the second common error, which is verb conjugation. Now, a conjugation error usually happens when the form of the verb used either does not match up with the subject or the verb is in the wrong tense. So this is the form of the verb, the conjugation of the verb, and there are two problems here. Now, the most common reason for the former error, not matching up with the subject, is when candidates mistake the final word in a subject for the subject itself. Let's have a look at an example. Completing these projects have been really challenging. So sometimes people see the word projects, which is in the plural, and they use that as the subject. They think that that word is the subject, and therefore they use the plural conjugation of has, which is have. But the problem is that projects is not the subject. The subject is completing these projects, which is a singular action, completing. So you got that gerund there to start things off. Because it's singular, it should be has and not have. So particularly when you start sentences with gerunds, be careful to make sure that you are using the right verb conjugation, but there are other times where the subject is mistaken as well. So do take a moment to think about whether your subject is plural or singular and make sure it is not just based on the last word. So just one more time to repeat that before you rush into the verb after the subject, particularly if the subject is fairly long, take a moment to consider whether the subject is singular or plural so that you have the correct, what is called subject-verb agreement. Now the other error, the latter error, regards to the wrong tense, there are probably a few more reasons why people make such a mistake. But a common one is that sometimes people mistake verbs which are similar across tenses. For example, the verb become. So if we look at this sentence here, since starting my new job, I've became much happier. It's a very common mistake with the verb become. Shouldn't be I've became, should be, of course, I've become, became, become. Present simple, past simple, and then the past participle, which is actually the same as the present simple. Not a common rule in English, but it does apply here. Try to realize which verbs cause you the most problems in terms of correct tense. That may be due to their spelling, it may be due to their form, but whatever the case, there probably aren't too many. Now this is a good thing because it should be easier to raise a little internal alarm in your head when you come to use these verbs. Again, let's have a look at an exercise. We're going to look for the conjugation errors in these 4 sentences. Now remember, there are 2 types of errors that might be made here. It's to do with that subject-verb agreement, but also with tense. So pause the video here, and when you think you've found them all, press play and we'll have a look. Okay, we're going to jump straight into them this time. So, first one of the problems with these new laws is that they will be difficult to implement quickly. This is an is, not an are, because we're dealing with a singular subject. Despite the fact you've got the word problems and laws, it's that one of, that's the subject here. One of the problems is that. The rest just helps to define the subject in more detail, but the actual subject itself is a singular. Second one, thanks for helping us to have such a fantastic holiday. I just wish we hadn't drunk quite so much. Now this is an error of verb tense and using the right form here. Drink, drank, drunk, quite a common one even among natives, particularly when they're speaking, not even when they're drunk. They often make this mistake here. So drunk is the past participle. Make sure that that's in the right form. Third one. I am writing to complain about a number of issues that I have. Now here it should be I have had or I have been having with a piece of equipment which I bought from your store. We want that present perfect here or the present perfect continuous. Either one is okay. Notice the correct form being used. And the final one, I'm afraid that a number of people have already asked me for the same thing. Now, some people get quite confused around the word number, a number, the number, not sure what to use here. Should it be has, should it be have, should it be singular, should it be plural? Now, this really depends on what the subject is trying to communicate, what the subject really is. A number of people emphasizes the plural. It's another way of saying many people have. Now, if we say many people have, we know we're dealing with a plural, despite the fact a number is singular, a number, one, but it's actually a plural. So be careful around that one. A number of something, you're dealing with a plural, use the plural verb conjugation. Okay, let's move on to one more error here, the common error, singular/plural. Errors concerning singular plural nouns are also very common in candidates writing, and here are some typical what are called sticking points. Sticking points are issues that students struggle to overcome. One of the plus noun, is this a singular or is this a plural noun that we should be using here? It's a plural noun. Here are some examples. One of the reasons, one of the best ideas, one of the most useful things. This comes up a lot in task 2 as well. A lot of people start their body paragraphs like this, but it does come up in task 1 letters 2. And it's common to open paragraphs or to open up a list of different things. As a result, it's very useful, but also very common. And as a result of that, common errors appear. So make sure you always use a plural following this expression if you are dealing with a countable noun. Now, determiners like every, each and all can often cause confusion as well. Notice every and each, they both are followed by singular, and all is followed by plural. So let's have a look at this. Every situation is different. Each situation is different. All situations are different. And there you can actually see an example of the conjugation issue coming up again. So these common errors sometimes overlap. And the other issue that's very common is countable and uncountable noun forms. Uncountable nouns are not given two different singular plural forms. We sometimes add the noun piece if we want to imply in an individual one of these things. So if we want to imply plural singular aspects to an uncountable noun, we can sometimes use the noun piece. There are other words that can be appropriate. I'd have a look at this and research it if you find it difficult. So here are some examples. It was a fantastic piece of entertainment. You could not say it was a fantastic entertainment or they were fantastic entertainments. You need to treat it as an uncountable noun unless you add the word piece, which can turn it into a countable in a way by using that countable noun piece. Same thing, that's a great piece of advice. And let's have a look at a plural example, which is quite rare, by the way. Let's separate those pieces of information. Entertainment, advice, information, all uncountable nouns. Most people are aware that information is an uncountable noun, but some people struggle with the words entertainment and particularly advice. I can't stress this enough. Advice is an uncountable noun. It's not a countable noun. Okay, let's finish up by looking at one more exercise on this final common error. So again, we have 4 extracts, and I want you to see if you can find the singular plural errors within each one. You can pause the video here and press play when you think you found them all. Okay, let's have a look. First one here. Quite frankly, I am appalled by the disgraceful service I have received from your staff. Now the first error, we had services. We are receiving a service here. It's just one service. It is a countable noun, but it's a little bit different to other countable nouns. It's like the whole experience of a service here. If you went to different shops and had a different service in each one, then you could start talking about services. But yes, for just this example here, the context should just be in the singular form. And staff, all the members of one shop are the staff there. So again, we're just using the singular form here. It was so good to catch up last Tuesday, and we should definitely do it again sometime soon. So not sometimes, that's partly a singular plural error, but also a mistake just simply with spelling and form here. Sometimes is a frequency adverb. That's not what we want here. We want to say at some point soon in the future, sometime soon. How about beers at the pub next weekend? This is a funny one. Beers, plural, is appropriate here because it implies that the beer is in glasses. And if you think about glass, a pint glass, for example, they become singular. You can count them. I have 2 glasses of beer. I have 2 beers. I have 4 beers. Bottles as well, of course. So we turn it into the plural here. If we use the singular, it sounds quite strange. How about beer at the pub? It doesn't sound quite right. We use beers to denote that we can count the number of bottles or glasses. So how about beers at the pub next weekend is appropriate. Third one, the injury occurred in your supermarket's dairy aisle at around 1 p.m. on Thursday, the 9th of May. Now the issue here is partly a punctuation issue. Hopefully you'll notice this from the punctuation lecture. So originally we had it as a plural form. It was a plural form because there was no apostrophe. Now that doesn't make sense because it's not in the possessive that way. We have to make it into the possessive and singular by separating the T and the S with an apostrophe. We now know that the supermarket possesses that dairy aisle, and it's just one supermarket. Now it's correct. And the final one, you see that there, one of the. And the rule with that is to follow with a plural. One of the best things about the new job is that I get to set my own hours, which means no more graveyard shifts. Again, I hope you found this lecture useful. We had a look at 3 common grammar errors today: article usage, verb conjugation and singular plural errors. As I mentioned earlier, if you know that you struggle with other grammatical errors, make sure that you do take the time to improve on those aspects. I know people don't enjoy learning about grammar. A lot of people find it a little bit boring, but it's definitely worth the effort that you'll put in. You will notice an improvement in your score, I'm sure, when you take the exam after a good bit of practice. So that closes up our look at the grammatical range and accuracy band descriptor category, and now we've looked at all of the band descriptor categories, so we can move on into the conclusion section, and we're actually going to have a look at another model answer, but this time we're going to take it step by step in real time. So I look forward to seeing you there.